Welcome everybody to the Smart Guy podcast. Today I got a really great guest. Man, he's a he's an entrepreneur. He's an educator. He's a leader amongst leaders. He's a founder of what we call the Core, which is a Bitcoin educational, a learning platform that's trained over 450 students in all parts of the world, not just in Africa but everywhere. He's also building a Bitcoin circular economy in Githurai, Nairobi, by teaching and onboarding merchants to accept Bitcoin payments in their businesses. In addition, he's also hosted multiple meetings in Nairobi, bringing education and community engagements closer to the people. His work blends education with real world adoption, empowering individuals, communities to embrace Bitcoin for financial freedom and innovation. Everybody, Felix, Mukungu, man, I appreciate you for being on, Felix.
All right. Thank you so much for having me here, CJ. Super excited. It was awesome to meet you here in Nairobi, and connect. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure. It was funny the way that they introduced us. It was at the KBCC, and they were like,
Mm.
"Man, this is the guy right here." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I was just like, "Hi," but like we didn't really know each other's backgrounds, and so like I heard that. But then when I was in Afrobit with Ronnie, educating the people in Kibera, I saw a little bit more of what you were doing, and then when I came to the core event in was it Rungiri? No, it was Rungai. I was like, I was highly impressed. The students were very engaged, and then you had the unconference, and that was huge. What inspired you to create the core?
All right. So actually, it's a very funny story because during COVID, I had to drop out from campus in that period, and that was from 2020. And that time, I had been in or joined some Bitcoin, not really Bitcoin, but the crypto space in general. Somebody just introduced me to that, and of course, being the first time, I didn't know exactly what I was doing, so I was just told, all right, so this is what you could make. You could do this and make maybe some money out of this. But instead I lost money out of that. But then I didn't think of it just like losing money because for the first time I moved value or I did transact outside the banking system just as a process to get some few coins. And that time it was Ethereum at that point. That is, I didn't even know about Bitcoin before then. That's what I was introduced to. So I was curious, how was it possible? Because before you could join that scheme, I had to like buy some of the coins and send. And then I was hoping to get a few dollars, maybe a day or something of that sort. And I'd even brought in some of my friends. I was telling them, all right, so this is it. We're out of the block with this kind of thing. So when that thing didn't work, I was still curious to understand how is it we could move value outside the banking system because I just downloaded a wallet at that time, bought some of the ETH and then moved, but then of course, it didn't work out. So I didn't stop there. I wanted to understand more. What is this new technology? It looks like something very interesting because apart from just losing the money, but there's something new with this thing that I didn't register anything with the banking system and I did a transaction. So I went down to start just doing my own research, looking at YouTube videos, podcasts, and also reading some articles that were being posted. I didn't even know Bitcoin Twitter, so I didn't know where to go exactly. So I stumbled to the Sailor series. That I would
Ah,
say was the thing that did the magic for me to really understand. Also, it's not even just about the thing that I was introduced to. Bitcoin is something completely different, and there's so much we don't understand about money. So with that realization, I thought, and I was with my young brother, living with my sister. I remember I wasn't going to school, no job. So I was staying with my sister, and I was like, I have so much free time at that time. Maybe I could dig deep into this. And because me and my friends lost money at that time, I thought, all right, so we've lost money, but this technology that looks really fascinating, what's the missing puzzle out of this? I didn't know Bitcoin Twitter, I didn't know anything. So I assumed this information, there's not so much people who are giving it the right way.
yeah.
So I said, all right, so maybe you can start educating people about Bitcoin. So somehow I stumbled into the word taproot, not really from just understanding how it works. The
Yeah.
first name that came to my mind wasn't even the core. So because the idea was out of the core, I was hoping that so many other projects will be built out of it, which is a thing that is happening now, and I'm very happy that it happened. I started a WhatsApp group with very casual conversation. So this is Bitcoin. It's totally different from those that you guys know. Most of you know. This is how a wallet works. So it was just even 5 people on the WhatsApp group. And then I was wondering, because now the information was very scattered at that time. I wasn't a Twitter person at all. So I didn't really know where to go to get like an information that is well organized. So I even developed a curriculum known as the Understanding Bitcoin before I got to know about the Bitcoin diploma. So I developed that curriculum, and I was randomly just reaching out to people and organizing some casual meetings, Google Meets, and say, hey guys, we have a session on Sunday. Would you come and join? I've reached out to somebody on Twitter at that time because I wasn't confident with the knowledge that I had. So I was randomly looking at people who are talking very nice stuff about Bitcoin, and they seem to know a lot of things about Bitcoin. So I could just DM them, hey, I'm organizing some call with my people here using this curriculum that I developed. It was just topics, not really. We didn't have content. It was just topics that I picked that will help us in order to understand the evolution of money, to introduction to Bitcoin. At that time, I also included blockchain word and then why Bitcoin up there. So it was very casual meetings. So now when I was reaching out to people on Twitter, they could come. They some of them even went ahead to prepare some few slides, and they would talk about that particular topic and the subtopics that I had. And then people were excited, and I noticed that so many people seemed to be interested about understanding Bitcoin. So the group, the WhatsApp group, I didn't have any other group, no Twitter page, no nothing, just a WhatsApp group. And
Yeah.
then as many people were interested to understand how it works, now I got to start very formal like sessions on Google Meet. And then after a period of time, I met the Me Premier Bitcoin team with a proper curriculum. We talked on how maybe I could use their curriculum. I believe I was among the first people or the first project to use the Bitcoin diploma, and that's how it went from just being scammed to starting a small project from a WhatsApp group. And now in general, I formed this curriculum, and then I met the people from a Premier Bitcoin, and here we are. Now we've done about, now we're in the 8th cohort. I think the graduation you saw when we were at the conference was the 7th cohort, and very much excited. So that the inspiration was to really get people to get the right information about Bitcoin.
That's big. Yeah, you went from ETH to Bitcoin, and you had got scammed, and so you said, "Hey, I'm going to take it upon myself to make sure that me and my people don't have to go through that." And lo and behold, now, like I've seen it firsthand, this thing is just rolling. So I want to congratulate you on that. There are a lot of resources out there, but it sounds like yours journey was similar to mine in the sense that, like, when I first got in, I thought I was the only one. I was looking around. I was like, wait, nobody else knows about this Bitcoin stuff. And there was a book by Isaiah Jackson called Bitcoin in Black America. And so I read that. I read it within like a day. I saw on the back they had a directory of a bunch of people that you can contact that if you were trying to get involved in the space. So I went on Twitter, I went on Instagram, I went on LinkedIn. I just follow everybody, try to interact with everybody. Some people interact back, some didn't. Some people I unfollowed. Some people I wanted a meeting and, working together now. But it's just having that initial spot. And so, congrats on starting that WhatsApp. Congrats on getting people involved. Now that you've got 7, now you're on your 8th cohort. What's your future vision for the core? Are you trying to expand, or you like where it's at? Like, what's your vision for it?
All right. So after we've now done this 7 cohort, actually the 6th cohort, that was our main program was Bitcoin education, the online program. And now you've mentioned actually at the beginning of this particular session about Bitcoin Githurai. That is actually our second program. So I knew very well, eventually we will want to establish something that's physical in a physical small geographical area. So the next thing that is about now 3 months old is the Bitcoin circular economy. And we are looking to really go down to try and have this community get to understand Bitcoin and have physical facilities of education set up, not just maybe for Bitcoin only, might be even to understand some few basic things like computer packages and stuff like that. But then before even we get there, it will be important that people understand what is Bitcoin and eventually have to do. And the few times that you've been here in Kenya, you've seen there's so much talent in terms of maybe dancing, music, and that kind of thing. But then most of it is, it's really in the fiat space. There's no chance for there's no, maybe there's chance, but it's not so much opportunities that these people can really establish themselves. But with Bitcoin in this community, this particular circular economy, you're really looking to not just doing merchant onboarding and training, but also social empowerment. We want to really show that Bitcoin is not just a tool for, or it's not just a money. It can be really a tool for empowerment. And in that, we are aiming to really ensure that the youth here understand, particularly in that community, understand how they can tap into Bitcoin's potential and bring the ideas out there. There's so much that is going to happen in Bitcoin in future. I know content creation is going to be a big thing in Bitcoin. So within the community, eventually, if possible, we would have a facility that we'll get maybe some of the youths within the community to be able to do even content for big wallets or any projects that would want to have their projects being highlighted on social media. So we are really looking to expand that circular economy, not just to show that Bitcoin is a media of exchange, but really to have people get real opportunities in the Bitcoin space. But apart from that, again, after even the core expanded, we are doing about 4 cohorts annually. In between, we've realized again, people are not really going to be waiting until these cohorts start. So there's so much, again, demand for self-paced learning. So that is to mean we have to look at something that will have people, even the merchants themselves. It's very hard to get hold of the merchants. Thinking of calling them for a meetup, they have to maybe close their businesses and just to come to that sometimes before even they understand what is Bitcoin all about. Because if they would, maybe they will stop their business for an hour or 30 minutes to come and listen. But if they have not known about, they don't know anything about Bitcoin, it's kind of hard to convince them, hey, take 30 minutes of your time to close your business. Let's come. And we are thinking of something that will help people to learn, maybe even if it's a web platform that will help people to learn on their own while they are at their businesses. There is no customers. We are looking at opportunities where now we can have people learn on their own. And for those who will be interested now on the online programs, they can't wait until when officially we are doing enrollments. They're able to wait. So kind of those are the two journeys, that are two areas that we're looking at. But then again, the biggest area that we're also looking at, eventually more merchants are looking to accept Bitcoin payments. That is a very long-term goal, or something that's really might come way later. For now, we are at a stage of creating this awareness and also building this circular economy to see it really work.
No, that's awesome. And I love how you say like the network is important because, I'm an accountant. What I say is like your net worth is your network. You had mentioned also Meet Premier Bitcoin. Like I met them in El Salvador. So, Bitcoin is a global internet money. And so you're no longer bound to Kenya in order to make money. You're no longer bound to Kenya to transact. Now you have the ability to have a global business. I think it's fantastic that you're showing the kids first because, you had said like you guys have a lot of talent in terms of like the music and the dancing and the entertainment realm. But just to give you a little insight, I think that the average Kenyan is like 5 times smarter than the average American. Like 3 languages as your baseline is crazy to me. I'm over here trying to learn Spanish. I'm trying to learn Swahili. So I feel eventually I'll know 3 languages. But you guys know 3 languages at like 5 years old. So it's like I would like for you guys to know that. And I know in America, they tend to not want you guys in America because you come over here, you take all the jobs, send all the money back, you displace all these people because they're not as talented as you. And so right now, as America's trying to figure out their financial situation, they're like, hey, hold up, we don't need everybody else coming in here to try to take these jobs. And so when I'm out there, I hear about the lack of opportunities. And so I know a lot of people are trying to come to America for the opportunities. But that's why I love what you're doing, because if you're creating circular economies where you're at, you don't need the American dollar. You don't need the American opportunities because you got everything you need literally right there. The quality of life in terms of like the food out there is like way better. I mean, you slaughter the chicken, eat it that day. I mean, that's good eating. The watermelon, you pick it, the next day it's being sold. It's delicious. It's not as GMO. It's not, the chickens aren't filled with steroids. So like our food might look better. America might look better. America's way better at marketing. But when you talk about a quality of life, Nairobi's 10 times better if you ask me. And I think the opportunities are right there. And so I think that you're seeing it, you're seizing it. So I want to make sure I congratulate you on that. I'm sure the kids are going to wind up loving it. You're young also, but I saw how the young kids were just looking at you like, man, this is amazing how involved they were going. And not just that, but you've created people who have graduated from the core, and now they have started creating their own educational platforms. That's why I call you a leader of leaders, because that's rare. A lot of people, they might be educational, they might be able to teach people, but everybody only looks to them as the leader, and they're never able to expand leadership. And I think what you've done is you've created that. I think Satoshi 53, that came from people that graduated from the core, and it's been a lot of people say, I graduated from the core, and then I started my own for my own individual niche. So I think you're already doing that.
Yeah, and actually it's amazing because from the very first cohort, what kept me really going, starting it is one thing, but then keeping going it's another. The very first cohort, we had my good friend from India called Palab. He was excited about the very first cohort, and as soon as he finished, before even we could finish the course, he showed some interest to start something in India. And now we have Zomhoti in India, very big project now. I believe they received a grant from HRF just, I think, last year. And also in Haiti, we have, yes, Bitcoin Haiti. They are graduates from the from, I believe, Cohort 4, if I'm not wrong. We have a guy from Afghanistan, sorry. We have Bitcoin Africa Story in Nigeria. And now in Kenya, we have Satoshi 53, we have Bitcoin Nairobi, we have EcoBits, and then also we have more people. Like now the team of the core, they are, all of them actually are graduates of the core. The people who are now building the core. And looking at that, the pinned post on our X really has highlighted all of the impact that the core has come up with. And that's kind of what really inspires me to see, from trying to name the core Taproot, I had that vision in mind that a lot of things might be born out of it. And now the core, just from the word the core, looking at it, that was the general idea. Even the logo that we had before this new one had that vision of, all right, so this is the foundation of so many projects. And I'm happy that we are able to help. And just beside that, we've also open sourced all our materials that we use on our GitHub. So maybe those people who are just starting Bitcoin projects, they don't have to go through the hassle of how do we evaluate our students? If you're building a circular economy, how do I design stickers for the merchants? It's all there in AI files, in PDF files, and in JPEGs. So they're able to just download and edit where necessary. If it's the quizzes, if it's the assignments that we use, or the final test that they use, they can even translate to their local language. That's kind of our aim, to ensure that really, because I believe, looking at the way Bitcoin is at the moment, education really is the leading indicator towards Bitcoin global adoption.
Yeah, for sure. Because I know here in America, they're getting really big on these Bitcoin ETFs. and things like that, ETFs, electronically traded fund, but they don't own their keys. And so like you're getting a lot of these middle class to rich people that are starting to buy these ETFs, but they don't own their keys. And so like in America in 1933, the US government said, hey, it's illegal to hold your own gold. And so any gold that was in banks or anything like that, the U.S. government seized it, took the gold, put it in a place called Fort Knox, and then they gave them the U.S. dollar value of the gold, but the value of the dollar has gone like down 99%, whereas gold has gone up like 2,000% since then. So it's one of those things where it's like, if they do that with Bitcoin, that would be terrible. If everybody that owns their Bitcoin in an ETF or they leave it on an exchange and all of a sudden it gets taken. So I agree with you. The education piece is important, and then creating the circular economies is important. And what I was telling a couple of them when I was out there, I was like, hey, look, once you make some money, don't just leave. When you make the money, stay there so that you all build. Because if you take it and all of a sudden you got that one person, they're like, hey, I can go to America. They think they're living the life and they leave. Well, then you're actually helping the people that are actually hurting Kenya, because Kenya, they have U.S. dollars in their treasury. So regardless of whatever Ruto's doing, the fact that you have U.S. dollars in your treasury, every time America prints money, Kenya's being robbed blind. So if you go to America, you start building up the American economy, you're actually hurting Kenya. So stay right where you're at, build it up, and continue to grow it. Yeah, so keep doing that. So, okay, so you had also mentioned earlier at the beginning that you were in East and you had got scammed. What was it that made you switch from Ethereum to Bitcoin, and then you were like, hey, I'm not turning back?
I mean, it's all about once you understand the root cause or the root problem that we have with money. And then you slightly, not even so much, understand why Bitcoin was created. Because after a few years of educating people, kind of, I've looked at slightly the history of money, what you've just talked about, executive order by President Roosevelt, I think it's 6102, and then the Nixon shock, and looking at all this knowledge that you get, and now why Bitcoin was created, you really know that most of this, most of any other coins are just what we call a zero-sum game. There are only few people at the top who are going to really get from people at the bottom, and it doesn't really help with what I was trying to offer to my community. I understand that it's not quite easy, and even looking at, I'm that person about freedom tech as much. So understanding that any random person right now, from where I'm seated, I'm running a full Bitcoin node. It took me about 5 days or more, maybe 6, 7 to set it up. And now it's running, and I can really validate, broadcast my transaction using my node. And all these things, once you understand, you get to know if there's anything you can make or you can create value out of, it's Bitcoin. Even the early years before getting some support, before even getting my first grant, people from the other crypto space, they were like, yeah, Bitcoiners, you guys are very broke, because again, in Bitcoin, it's all about it was true, yeah. It was about proof of work. In Bitcoin, it takes time before your project is trusted, before you even get that financial support, and you are like, all right, so you're in that very edge. Maybe you understand, all right, I really need to start making money eventually, but then you understand again, there's nothing long term you can build out of these other coins. These absolutely, the core has been here for now 1 and probably 8 months. And there's so many projects that have started from the other coins, and they are always there for 3 months, 2 months, 4 months. That's it. They collapse. And once you understand that, you realize that if it's anything substantial you're looking to build, and then you got to pay attention to Bitcoin, because again, if you look at all these other minor, or even, I wouldn't say there are opportunities in the other coins, you realize that they are running interference. If I had paid attention to some of those, I would not have thought about building the core in the way that is going to be big, because I'll be making maybe little money that's not going really to take me any far from my, or even help me in anything that I was envisioning. But then if you concentrate in Bitcoin, there's so much value that you can bring in that can really help you build completely, and even raise a family if you're that type of person you want to build a family and grow really so much and even create maybe generational wealth. But then if you pay attention to some of these things outside, you realize that you're just maybe wasting much time trying to understand how they work, because most of them won't really work for long. So it's rather that you can try and focus on Bitcoin and Bitcoin only and build something a long term. It's all about time preference. Again, you would choose a low time preference to build something. It might take a while, but then if it gets there, and then you're good to go. And also, I've learned that from Bitcoin. It's now 17 years, but there's been thousands of attempts to change how Bitcoin works, but it's been very resilient. So I'm borrowing all these ideas from the way Bitcoin is working. And even we have now a debate about, I don't know, the Bitcoin nodes and Bitcoin Core, yet to understand. But again, these are the things that are encouraging me to really like just go along. Like if you work with how Bitcoin really perseveres all these things, and it continues to just work as it was designed to work, you really believe that in whatever that you're building, if you try and compare how Bitcoin has been resilient, then you're good to go. That was the thought that I had, and from experience, I've got to learn that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad that you were able to see that and you were able to adjust because a lot of people they don't. They get caught up in the money thing and they never really figure it out. I know a lot of people that they get involved with a certain altcoin and then the altcoin goes to zero or it never reaches its all-time high again because this is not about quote unquote getting rich. It's about, like you said, generational wealth. But really to me, it's about the network because it's like-minded people. Even like you had talked about your grant and how Bitcoiners tend to be looked at as broke because it's like we have to build from the bottom up. There's no company over at the top that's saying, oh, we want you to shill our coin. We want you to do this. Here's $1 million. Go ahead and do it. There's none of that. It's you have to work, provide your proof of work, and then somebody early has to be able to be like, okay, we approve of that. Here, we'll give you this because we like what you're doing, which is the beauty in it because it's long term. And the cool thing is you're in this space long enough, you'll be the one that's going to be able to give out the grant. You know, I've been in this space since 2017, didn't really get big in it till 2020. And so now it's like seeing the growth, 8 years of being in it. Now I get to travel the world. I get to know all these people that I met on Twitter/X, Clubhouse, social media, you know, different conferences. And so I just feel blessed. There's an app called the Orange Pill app that I've used that shows where like all of the global Bitcoin meetups are. So wherever I go, I'm able to find local Bitcoiners. I'm able to find the meetups, the conferences. And also there was an app that I used in Costa Rica called the Bitcoin Jungle. I think that if there was something like that in Kenya where it was like, oh, these are the specific vendors in Kibera or Githurai or Rungai, all these places that you're doing, man, I would just come over there and I would go directly to all the Bitcoin vendors and just spend with them. I know there's like Bitcoin Map or BTC Maps, but I think it would be awesome if there was like a local Kenya app similar to like the Bitcoin Jungle towards like, oh, this is where we go. Because I'll use that all day long. I use Tondo. I prefer to just spend my sat so I don't have to worry about M-Pesa or Kenyan shillings. I just spend Bitcoin everywhere I go. It makes life easier, especially for those rich foreigners, right? Yeah, you just direct them right into where you want them to go. So okay, so you've been able to go into how because this is you said your seventh or eighth cohort. I know that there were a lot of protests about the finance bill that was going on. You know, Bitcoin basically came as a rebellion against the U.S. when everything crashed in 08, 09. How do you see Bitcoin and the protests and the finance bill? How do you see them merging? And how are you able to provide hope to people who are very angry and upset?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not sure if you've come across that particular post. It's being used mostly for at Bitcoin conferences. I had heard a placard that says "Vote Bitcoin."
Yeah.
I mean, it's, being a Gen Z, I know Bitcoin being the solution to the social layer is totally broken. the social layer. And this is kind of what I was hoping to spark this conversation. How would somebody just come out with a vote Bitcoin placard on a finance bill protest? So
Yeah.
the conversations are around how did it get to this level that the social layer is broken? How is it that things are not really working? How is it possible that everybody is angry? It's not just about Kenya. If you look at how many protests that we've had for the past like 2 years, it's many areas, many countries, at least we have one protest each year. And now trying to tell people that the social layer has been broken because the money has been broken. You don't really understand these things until you get into Bitcoin and you realize that everybody's idle, and not idle from a good way that they have achieved anything, but there is no hope. You literally looking at prices of goods and services go up. It's not like a long time ago you could wait for 3 years for you to wake up and realize, oh, I'm buying bread for an extra 5 cents. You literally see this when you like it's 6 months and you go and you realize the prices of things have gone up. And most of the Gen Zs, because the Kenyan protest was really about the Gen Zs, the one for the finance bill. And Gen Zs are actually, for my opinion, they are the people that are really going to create that scenario where Bitcoin is going to truly be adopted, because we are that gap of trying to start, maybe even we've just finished campus, trying to find us opportunities in the space, or even trying to start families. And now we are in that period, we've just left. Maybe we are no longer being supported by our parents. So in that period of now, Bitcoin has got us to where we're supposed to be. Like, you're trying to make it in, but you also realize you have to work maybe 2 to 3 jobs for you to even like support or even be able to afford the very basic life, paying rent, affording meals. And if it's anything goes beyond those particular 2 things, then you can't even afford. So what is the thing that you can think of when we have those kind of protests? You can tell people now, what do we do? The solution might not really be leaders. Leaders are not really going to be the solution. We've had protests ever since we got independence. People always protesting about something, and it looks like there will never be a solution. Trying to put all our hope on certain leader trying to change something. Because even for me, I'm looking at these leaders. When they get there, they are surprised. There's nothing they can do because it's all bureaucracy. It starts from, you mentioned somewhere that we have reserves of the US dollar. So we are somehow, again, even if you have a very good leader with good intentions, they have to really look at what's happening to the US. And if they don't do things as the US or the people providing these financial services, there's nothing they can do. So my hope with these things that are erupting with protest is to let people know there's never really a perfect leader, and we cannot have these good leaders as long as the money that we're using is tied by it's what they provide. And if you look at the mechanism, the way money is being printed again, the relationship with the government and the central banks, you really can't even understand who is in charge. So when you don't even understand this thing, at least with Bitcoin now, we get to understand with principles of Bitcoin, there's something for the first time we can hope and put all our hope in Bitcoin and looking at it to be the solution to maybe our near future life. If these are opportunities that can come, once you get into Bitcoin, you stop to worry about who is going to be the next president. You're worrying about how much Bitcoin can I have, or how many people can I teach to understand Bitcoin. So if you get enough people to get to Bitcoin for them to realize, and then you don't even have time to go and protest, you have time to teach the next person to understand Bitcoin, so that all of you eventually can stop really using their money that funds those kind of things that are happening, and now look at Bitcoin to be the tool that can really empower everybody else.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're going through a time period called mercantilism. And the last time this happened, this was back in like the 1600s, where Europe, they changed what was valuable from the silver to gold Africa had all the gold. And so that incentivized their people to go from Europe into Africa to get the gold. And so overnight, Africa was like the richest, continent in the world because they switched their value system. But what it did was it incentivized them to go into Africa and plunge Africa. And so now, America's a bully. Europe did all that. They came to North America. They brought people like me and my ancestors from Africa, and they were like, hey, and they built up the most powerful machine in the world, and now that machine is bullying everybody. And so, like, we've had leaders, like you said, that were fantastic. You had Gaddafi in Libya, where he was trying to unite all the African countries using your own resources, and then America said, no, we're not going to allow that to happen. And so, they toppled that, and you can see now, like, the negative effects. Like, they have slavery in Libya now, and it's simply because America didn't like the fact that an African country was trying to use a different currency for Bitcoin because it's so decentralized. They can't attack one person. They'd have to literally attack almost the entire world. And if you can't beat them, then you join them. And so now America's getting into the Bitcoin game at a heavy, fast pace. In this version of mercantilism, at least Africa knows what's going on, unlike back then. We know what's going on, and we're front running it. You're already educating your people. And so I want to salute you for that. One, what's a way that people can get in contact with you if they want to get involved? What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
All right, so we have a very cool website, www.thecore.africa. By Twitter maybe as well. You can search Mukungu Felix as one word, Mukungu Felix. Yeah, so those particular, if you go to our website, and if it's the core, generally you have on our platforms, we have the core 21M. At the core 21M is the handle for most of our social platforms. But then if you just go to www.thecore.africa, there's so much details you can find on how to get in contact with us.
Awesome. And if there was one thing that you want to tell anybody, what would it be?
I mean, just pay attention to Bitcoin, spread the word, let people understand why Bitcoin was created.
Awesome. And for those that don't know, I'm wearing the Bitcoin Core shirt right now. So hey, this is where it all starts at. You got the Bitcoin Core, that's the download, so you can, run your own node. Love the name, love what you're doing, man. Appreciate you for being on, Felix. And yeah, man.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, CJ.
No problem. Y'all have a good one.
Yes.